Hey, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, very happy to be here and to represent Atlantis and to present here at ScubaCon. It's been such a great speaker lineup and a lot of great information so far. And yeah, it's great to be here. So I think what I will do here is switch over to share my screen and then start sharing some information about Atlantis and who we are and what we're doing. So let me get that working right here. Okay. So now we should be looking at the wrong screen here. Let me switch this around. Okay, so now we're official. So basically, I handle West Coast sales for Atlantis Dive Resorts and Liveaboard in the Philippines. And actually, fun fact, last year was our 25th anniversary. So we've been diving the Philippines for a very long time and have done a great job, building up diving in the region and all the areas that we dive. I've been working for Atlantis coming up on 2 years here. So of course I'll take full credit for all of that. But I'm excited to share diving in the Philippines and share some photos and all of that with you guys. So this is probably where I would ask how many people have been to the Philippines and been to the Indo-Pacific, but I cannot see all of your hands. So some of this could get repetitive for people who have experienced it, but we'll drop some fun facts along the way. So basically, diving the Philippines is incredibly unique compared to most other places in the world outside of the Indo-Pacific Ocean. So we are located at the top of the Coral Triangle and have about 7,107 islands. So there's a lot of islands. It changes daily depending on what the tides are doing. High tide, less islands. Low tide, more islands. So there's a lot of area for the water to move around and really for a lot of species and marine life to move around these islands. So with the Coral Triangle, it is hands down the center of the ocean's biodiversity, which means you are going to see more coral and more fish life and more reef life, more critters than anywhere else. So it's really, really fantastic diving and just really, really special diving. You know, once you see the colors on the reef, the diversity on the reef, it's mind-blowing and you really want to come back. So, we're excited to be right here, this little pink group of islands in the Philippines right there. Let me move to my next slide here. There we go. So the biodiversity we're talking about in the Coral Triangle, and this is just a small sample, found this, this photo in our archives, but this is really truly what the diving is like. You've got all these hard corals. As you're there exhaling, the bubbles blow to the surface, all these chromis and amphias drop into the coral reefs. As you begin to inhale and you're quieter again, these fish come up and dance out of the reefs. Then you exhale, poof, they go back down. But you're seeing all this amazing marine life, during the dives that we're doing. And I'll get into all of that as we talk about the different regions. So travel to the Philippines is pretty easy with regards to looking at other places, remote parts of the world, remote diving destinations. You fly into Manila, you can do a transfer to our Dumaguete resort fairly easily with a quick flight on some nice airlines, Cebu Pacific or Philippine Airlines. We do van transfers to get you around. So while you are looking at, hey, this is the Indo-Pacific, it's the Philippines, it's far, the travel isn't as intimidating as it may seem up front. So it's fairly easy to do. In terms of weather and dive conditions, we are in the tropics and we like to say that the diving is good year round. And what that means is we don't really have high season or low season. We don't have different rates throughout the year. Anytime a group wants to come visit the resort is going to be great. There are some changes with some of the weather and some of the water temperatures, which I have down in the bottom piece of this slide. As you get into the winter months, it's a little colder. And as you get into the spring, the water warms up a bit. Now there's pros and cons to that too. You'll see different marine life, stuff like paddle-flap scorpionfish or rhinopias will come up during the colder water times and rise up into those recreational dive depths. So you'll see stuff like that you may not see when the water's warmer, and different pros and cons to different marine life. You may see highlights like thresher sharks just popping up, or you may see different stuff like that, just depending on what the water is doing. So there's really no bad time to dive the Philippines. If you have very specific agenda or different things you want to see, the team at Dreamweaver is there to answer questions and figure out, you know, when the best time or where the best location is to see some of these critters here. So with Atlantis, we cover all the best diving in the Philippines. Go figure. So we're looking at this map right here, and you fly into Manila, which is outlined on the top here. Our first resort in Puerto Galera is about 3 hours south of Manila. So you fly in, you get in a van transfer, you take that for 2.5 hours, you cross the channel, you're at the resort, and you can be diving the same afternoon as you arrive. So it's pretty cool. It's a jet wash dive. You may be tired at the end, you eat a great dinner, but you sleep it off and boom, you're already in full rhythm for your trip. In Dumaguete, down further south, this is our other resort. So you'd fly into Manila, you'd take an hour to hour and 15-minute flight, and then you end up at the Dumaguete resort. From the airport, it's about 20 minutes and you're in this lush jungle setting. So it's really spectacular and really great diving. The Azores Liveaboard, which is our liveaboard, moves around throughout the year. So during the first part of the year, it embarks and disembarks from our resort in Puerto Galera and does Apo Reef and the shipwrecks of Coron. Then it does Tuba Taha, which is extremely popular right now, just amazing, probably top 5 dive destinations worldwide right now. And then it moves to Dumaguete for the back half of the year, where it goes up into the whole Visayas region here, which we'll touch on a little bit. So basically, one of the nice things about the Azores is you can embark and disembark from the resorts. So it's easy to add relaxing days at the resorts while also being on the boat and getting that great liveaboard dive trip experience. And it also saves transfer costs, which is another great thing. So Puerto Galera. Basically, this has been a marine protected area since the late 70s and just has really, really exquisite diving and a mix of fantastic marine life. We are in the Verde Island Passage, which means that we are in the center of marine biodiversity, according to Cal Academy of Science, which has been there, 50 times in the last 20 years or so, doing a lot of research, a lot of studying. For instance, they were on the Azores on our boat in the Verde Island Channel there, and in 10 days, I believe, discovered 300 new species to science. So this is just the type of biodiversity we're finding here in the Verde Island Channel, which is right here in Puerto Galera. The really unique thing too is that our resort is located right in Sabang Bay, which is where the core of the dive sites are. So you have a number of different dive sites that are all 2 to 5 minutes away from the resort. So you motor out real quickly, do your dive, come back to the resort for your service interval. So you get real fresh treats, coffee, tea, get to sit about and hang out on the land, and you're not rocking around on a boat drinking packaged beverages. So that's really nice. Here's an aerial view of Sabang Beach here in Puerto Galera. So it's a bit of a town and we are situated in there, and all that diving again is around both sides, just a few minutes from the resort. Just another view of the palm tree type tropic setting. And of course the reefs below. So just all kinds of really, really exquisite dive sites showcasing some of that great Philippines diving. So lots of big barrel sponges here. These are some of the dive sites really close. We've got a lot of critters too. So this is paddle flap rhinopias here by Marty Snyderman, who's one of our Atlantis image makers. And the critter diving is really cool. So one of the great things about Puerto Galera is you can have nice gentle drift dives over colorful, rich, lush reefs, or you can stick your head into the sand and get hardcore with some of these macro critters. It's really, really amazing, you know, the differences of stuff you'll see. We've got one big shipwreck there, which you see here, and then a number of small shipwreck debris things, which are great because artificial reefs, as we all know, attract marine life and create a lot of great diving. A lot of big sea fans and just really, really pristine diving. It's fantastic. It's unparalleled. There's early research going on that is showing that the corals in the Verde Island Channel may be resistant to warming ocean temperatures and coral bleaching and things like that, which is really fascinating when you start to think about where the most resilient spots and most resilient reefs are in the world. You know, we're starting to do that research in the Verde Island Channel, which is really, really cool and really special. Verde Island is a really popular spot as well. So this is one of those must-do day trips. We package that in with a lot of the trips we're doing to Puerto Galera, because Verde Island is just off the charts. This photo you see here can barely do the justice. You're on a pinnacle out in the middle of this channel. So you've got big fans, you've got soft corals, hard corals. You've got small schools of reef fish. You've got schools of more pelagic fish, like jacks swimming about. And then you've got the stuff that attracts too. You might see sharks and other big things too. People see whale sharks out there. It's just really, really spectacular diving and something that is a can't miss. It's definitely one of those bucket list dive sites in the world. And then just a few shots of the resort to give you a taste of the resort here in Porto Galera. So we've got a nice pool, which is great for relaxing, hanging out, having a drink, certifications, whatever you're going to be doing. 50 Bar is world famous. Our bartender Tauntaun there has been there a long time. I know some of you know Tauntaun, and he looks so young, but he's been there for a long time. So you start to do the math, like how does that work? But he's a local legend, and this is a fun spot to hang out in the evenings, or even getting ready for a night dive. Before you go out, everyone congregates, hangs out, talks. We get back from the night dive. It's just a fun ambiance and fun spot to be. Of course, we've got a full service massage. The massages are great. Poolside, nice, quiet, serene. And of course, great dining at Toco's restaurant. So Atlantis does have a reputation for some of the dining. And every time I see this slide, I get a little bit hungry. So we'll move on. Okay, so moving down further south, now we're at the bottom of Negros Island I showed before, which is Dumaguete. And Dumaguete is also a protected set of marine sanctuaries. So what we have here is a little bit different, where Porto Galera had a lot of those vibrant, rich coral reefs in addition to great macro subjects. Dumaguete, for the most part, is going to be hardcore muck diving. So you will find critters nonstop for your entire dive. If you are budget conscious and you look at cost per dive on your dive trips, break it down further into cost per critter. So how much you're paying per critter you see, and the value is going to be off the charts. Our guides are just showing you critter after critter after critter. So especially for those underwater photographers, you are head in the sand, just shooting nonstop, filling those memory cards. It's just really amazing diving. There are also some smaller reefs around Dumaguete, and of course some day trips out to places like Apple Island, which I'll show you in a second, that are spectacular coral reefs. Just like Porto Galera, all the dive sites are 2 to 5 minutes away. So quick motors, you're in your wetsuit by the time you get on the boat. It's all valet diving, so you don't touch your gear. And then you're at those dive sites and doing your surface intervals back at the resort where you can relax, change camera batteries, order a snack, whatever you want to do. So here's the map where Dumaguete is, down here at the bottom. And then lots of cool stuff here. So just these critters and the marine life here. So this is a scorpion fish right here, again, photographed by Marty Snyderman. So you don't want to step on these guys, devil scorpion fish. Lots of stuff too. As you start looking, you'll notice, oh, cool, under some of the reefs and structure and even artificial reefs, there's cardinal fish. You look at the different species of cardinal fish, that's great. There's so many species of cardinal fish. You look at the cardinal fish, you see stuff like this male who's mouth brooding with his eggs. And he will hold these eggs in there. They start off, this bright red color, and as they mature, they gray, they start to develop eye spots. And you can almost watch during your week, 10 days, 12 days at the resort, these eggs mature with these cardinal fish until they spawn them off into the water. And it's just really special, really fascinating to see this stuff, and a photographer's dream. We've got blue ring octopus. Now, this is not the greater blue ring octopus. It is a matote blue ring, which still has a TTX venom, but we have tons of octopus. So they love these coral rubble and rock rubble type bottoms, good spots to go look for them. And also, while you could see them middle of daylight, on your night dive, whenever, evenings are generally a good time to go look for octopus, but there are tons of them, and they're really fun to watch and try and search for and find. Seahorses, there are so many seahorses, you'll get tired of seeing seahorses, guaranteed. And then also blackwater diving. So we've been doing blackwater diving like a lot of places in the world and a lot of great dive resorts. So we're doing that as well. It's just amazing what the tides and currents will bring up from the fish that are in this pelagic state that is fairly new to science. We've understood the eggs and the spawning part of the life cycle. There was a gap for the pelagic state, and then reef settling into their regular mature adult lives and reproduction, we all knew. But now we're really getting into some of the photos of this blackwater pelagic stage, which is really fun, really exciting, and a must do when you're coming to dive Dumaguete. Okay, and Apple Island, as promised. Now this is just spectacular coral reefs, hard corals, soft corals, as far as you can see, amazing visibility, and lots of sea turtles. So there's just tons of sea turtles. And the way it works is there are some walls, but there's also sloping reef. And these turtles hang out in the shallow reef, which is about 20 feet, maybe 15 feet, which is great for snorkeling, great for diving, hanging out, doing your safety stop at the end of the dive. You can just kick back and hang out with some turtles. So really, really spectacular diving. We do it as a day trip with 3 dives and include it in our Dumageddon package when you're out there diving for a week. We also have day trips out to Oslo to snorkel with whale sharks. Now, this is a fun day trip if you have not seen whale sharks before. It's a great opportunity. This is also a marine park where they do these whale shark tours year round. The whale sharks move in and out. They come and they go. They are fed by the park rangers. So we work it out to get our own experience with some of these whale sharks when we go do these day trips. So really cool experience if you haven't seen a whale shark. And since it's snorkeling, it's really nice to do on your last day. So you don't have to sit around the resort wondering what you're doing while your dive gear dries. You can go do this, swim with the whale sharks, and have a great experience, on that last day, just action-packed vacation. And this is an example of the Dumageddon Resort. So whereas Porto Galera, you saw in the aerial view, had a bit more of a town surrounding it with Sabang Beach, Dumageddon is in the jungle. So it is quiet, the garden is serene, the landscaping is serene. You really feel like the resort was built out of natural materials in this existing old growth jungle, which is just really peaceful and tranquil and just a whole different experience. You can see the sand in the right corner there of the frame, and you can walk up and down that beach, black sand beach, as far as you want and really enjoy the quiet tropic vacation vibe. Here's a shot of our pool with a nice waterfall. To the right is where the spa is. So you can get a massage and you can listen to that pool and that landscape. Right here's the spa, which is just a great setting for it. Fun spot to read a book. If you have non-divers accompanying you, they'll certainly find themselves here quite a bit. But just really beautiful landscaping and lush landscaping and very peaceful. Of course, both resorts have great camera rooms and full camera facilities, including dedicated rinse tanks. Now we have a number of different rinse tanks, for regulators, for BCDs, for fins, dedicated camera rinse tanks. Of course, that has changed with COVID. We now don't rinse any of that personal gear like regulators in a global rinse tank. That is done for now. But stuff like the camera rooms are fantastic, give you lots of space, lots of light for working on your gear. So especially with Dumageddon, we have tons of professional photo and video shooters in and out all the time. They just come back year over year. And in my opinion, that says a lot just in and of itself, the diving and then the resort. Okay, so now we move into the Azores. Okay, so we're on the Liveaboard, and we, as I mentioned before, this moves around the country depending on the time of year. So basically, Tuba Taha is one of the highlights. It's such a popular dive destination for us right now, and keeping an eye on time here. It's just really popular for exquisite, pristine diving. You will see gorgeous reefs out in the middle of the Sulu Sea that have not been fished, have not been dived too much. The season is only about 3 months long due to, 1, government restrictions, 2, the season. It just gets too windy out there. So, it's a limited season with low dive impact. You can be seeing an amazing coral reef with huge school of jacks or barracudas, and look around behind you and a whale shark, one of the large ones, 45 feet, will pass behind you as it's swimming through blue water. So it delivers those special experiences, sharks, manta rays, all that sort of thing. Tuba Taha right here, you can see in the bottom left corner of this map, it is in the middle of the Sulu Sea. So what we would do is fly into Manila, fly to Puerto Princesa, which is around here on Palawan Island, and then you'd motor to Tuba Taha to do your week and then come back. So the boat does not embark and disembark from the resorts like the rest of the year. That's a little different, but we still do a lot of combo trips. So we will do that week in Tuba Taha, and before or after, a lot of our groups like to spend a week at the resorts, either or both, whatever combination there. So this is a little map of some of the atolls here at Tuba Taha. Again, it's in the middle of the ocean. So you are diving these atolls, which are just pristine seamounts. It's spectacular. The season is mid-March to mid-June. So that's the window. That's the only time anyone is diving it. And that's when you go and dive it. And just some examples. So a couple of these photos shot by my counterpart, Les Corkle, who does sales and marketing on the East Coast. So here's some shots from him, some manta rays. So you just never know what you're going to see. This is one of those dive sites that, you know, you want to look at the reef, but you always want to keep your head on a swivel to look to the blue, because otherwise your buddy's going to come up and say, did you see this? And you're going to be upset. So you have to be looking all around you, 360 constantly, to see what you're going to see. And just some of the corals on the reef, you know, particularly on the right, those zoanthid corals, I believe, that's just classic Philippines color. Tons of that there, big sea fans, big barrel sponges, all that sort of thing. Lots of vibrant soft corals. And of course, lots of schools of big fish and jacks and things like that. So you'll see all of this out at Tuba Taha. Of course, different weeks, different itineraries will have different marine life you're going to see, but out in the open ocean, that's one of the really fun things. So a little bit about the Azores before we go to the other Azores destinations. We take 16 passengers. We have 7 deluxe staterooms and 1 owner's suite. If you want to be a little higher with a little more space. This is a marine engineered yacht. It has dual motors and it is designed to be on the open water. So it is not, you know, it is not a near shore coastal Panisi type boat that looks great, but also doesn't sail so well. This is a marine engineered yacht. It's made to be out there. We pull out all the stops. You know, there's a nice spa on the top. There's a nice lounge area for some outdoor eating or kicking back with a book. There's a nice galley here for a lot of the meals. And of course, it goes without saying, you know, we take all the precautions, new stuff due to COVID and all of that very seriously. So in terms of cleanliness and all of that, we have been, you know, above any sort of benchmark, which is how we've been doing it for so many years and built a reputation for so many years, but also continue to do that, you know, during these times. And when we get back into full swing of things, you know, that will be, of course, very well addressed. And then some of the itineraries we're doing besides Tuba Taha. So from the Porto Galera resort, we go to Coron and also Apo Reef. So excuse me for that typo there. I just realized that. Apo Reef is different from Apo Island in Dumaguete. Apo Reef is considered a mini Tuba Taha. It's open seamount type reef on the way towards Tuba Taha or on the way to Coron, which is on Palawan Island there. So the thing we do here is look at shipwrecks. There are so many cool shipwrecks in Coron, and the Liveaboard on the Azores is a great way to do it. These are World War II shipwrecks. Essentially, this is, and some of the history buffs can probably correct me here, but my understanding is that these are some of the ships that got out of Truk Lagoon that weren't bombed in the bay there and managed to escape, hide in Coron, and then were bombed about 6 months later once they were discovered. So that's the history of the wrecks. They're about that same age and that same time period. So in terms of looking at where we are on the map, Coron is down here. So you'll see my mouse. We start at Porto Galera, and then we'll motor to Apo Reef, and then we'll do Coron, and then we'll come back. On a lot of the itineraries, we also make a stop to see some dugongs, which I'll have in here as well. So we generally spend 2 days at Apo Reef, so you get this great reef diving, and then 4 days doing the shipwrecks. So you get a good mix. It's not only shipwrecks. You're getting those reefs plus the wrecks, which makes for just a great combo trip. The wrecks are in a lot of bays. So in terms of visibility, it could be a mix. It could be 50 feet, it could be 20 feet. You're in these bays, but you're there to look at the wrecks, and the wrecks attract marine life. Heard a story from a photographer that was trying to shoo cuttlefish out of the way so he could compose his shot. So, you know, it's just rich, vibrant marine life that you'll find at these sites. Just another example of one of the wrecks. And another one here. Just these divers, you know, present some scale with the wreck photos we see. And of course, a dugong. So this dive is marshaled by rangers in the Philippines. So on these itineraries, we will go and we will snorkel or dive for an afternoon with the dugongs, which is really cool. So there's usually one around, sometimes there's more, but it's a fun highlight as part of the trip. Okay, and now we move to the Visayas region, which has just a fantastic group of itineraries. If you want a sampling of Philippines diving on a week-long or 10-day liveaboard trip, the Visayas has so many great opportunities there. Just lots of blended coral reefs and macro subjects and everything in between. So now the boat embarks and disembarks from the Dumaguete resort, making it really easy to do that combo trip or to relax for a couple days, you know, shake off the diving rust, get the gear wet, and then you hop on the boat. If for any reason a bag got delayed, your bag has now shown up before the boat leaves. So makes it really easy for that. And this is the Visayas region here. So we'll talk about this whole area and some of these islands with the itineraries. So we visit a number of different islands. So from Molbol to Pescador, Oslab, Sumalan, Balikasag, a lot of good stuff. Monad Shoal here, which you'll see is home to thresher sharks at Malapascua. So this is a really cool opportunity to see that great sampling of Philippines marine life and Philippines diving, while also getting in some big fish with those threshers, which are there, very, very reliably mornings throughout the year. And just some photos here on some of these dives. The different sites have different things they're known for, from wall dives to muck dives to big schools of fish and all that sort of thing. So you'll be able to experience all of this as you're on these different liveaboard itineraries. We offer a few different ones and different lengths too. So from 7 nights to 10 nights. If you're going all the way to Monad Shoal and Malapascua to see the thresher sharks, that's a 10-night trip, because that guarantees you'll get the most diving versus burning days motoring. It doesn't make sense to do it that much as well. You might as well spend more time, do more diving, and also get the highlight with these sharks. Fun fact that we don't talk about much, but these sharks can also be found in Puerto Galera in January, February timeframe. But it's hit or miss. It's just pure luck, but they are around the Philippines. So again, keep your eyes to the blue, especially on some of these corner sites or wall sites, because you just never know what you're going to see. And that's pretty much it. So that's the Philippines diving and kind of what we touch on with Atlantis and how we run our trips with some of the resorts and combo trips. We are giving away a free trip here. I know Lisa will chime in with more details, but we are excited to welcome divers back and answer questions here right now. Any questions you have about Atlantis, the Philippines, diving, photography, anything.
Oh yeah, excellent. Brent, can I just say that was spectacular. I personally have been to the Philippines 5 or 6 times, stayed at both Atlantis resorts, done the Azores liveaboard, and you definitely did it justice. It's one of my favorite places on the planet, I must admit, because of the diversity. So I can only just echo what Brent has said and really encourage everybody to look into this destination. And it's the trifecta. It's 2 different resorts and a liveaboard, and they cover almost all of the Philippines. And from wreck diving to sharks to muck to reef, and you can do a lot of it all on one particular destination or one particular resort. So just want to say thank you. That was spectacular. Do have a few questions. First one is, Brent, do you have a particular favorite Azores itinerary that you like? Coron, or I know Tubataha is very popular, but is there one that you particularly love?
Yeah, with the itineraries, I think it really depends on a number of factors, right? So I think it depends on what your agenda is and what you want to see. And then also the time of year you have to travel. So depending on how you're doing that, you may have different times of year available, depending on schedule or itinerary. Like you said, Lisa, Tubataha is very, very popular right now. That is, an exquisite trip. I really think that those shipwrecks of Coron is really fascinating. And, Coron does not get talked about too much, at least those shipwrecks. But if you follow, and I know a lot of you on this webinar do, news about Chuck Lagoon and some of those shipwrecks and things and the state they're in, they're getting towards the end of, a diveable life in terms of, I don't want to say penetration, but, maybe swimming through corners and stuff like that. So now's a great time to go get those dives in, because, you leave those things sitting, a number more years, and who knows what state they'll be in, or, what they will end up in. Of course, they'll still have big structure and reefs and attract marine life, but you guys know what I mean. I also think the Visayas is really cool too, because you get that wide sampling of Philippines diving. So for instance, the boat embarks and disembarks from Dumaguete. You hang out, you get wet, go see Apple Island, go do some critter diving, some muck diving, get used to your buoyancy and get in your rhythm, maybe get in your rhythm with your camera. And then you go embark on this trip and see just the reefs and the schools of fish and, those chances of pelagics. You never know what you'll see. So, that's just really special as well. So I really think it just comes down to the time of year you want to travel and if you have anything specific you want to see.
Yep, good. That's a very good recommendation. Um, uh, can you just explain a little bit about, I mentioned muck diving, but there may be a few people out there that don't know exactly what that means.
Yeah. So basically, muck diving is macro diving, and the way the landscape is set up in Dumaguete is you have a volcano behind the resort, right? It's not an active volcano. There's nothing to worry about there. But what volcanoes do is they produce rich volcanic substrate. So we have this rich volcanic organic matter sand in front of all of Dumaguete and Darwin when the resort is. So it's very similar to what you might find in Tulamben in Bali or in Lembe Strait. You know, it's just a gathering place for all this rich marine life. So really what happens is you go down, all the reefs are sloping. So you pop into very shallow water, you go over the edge, you drop down maybe about 60 feet. You don't need to go much deeper. And then you work your way back up, a gentle Z pattern. And you are looking in the substrate, maybe it's small reef stuff, or maybe it's just that sand substrate, looking for all these critters that live there. So it could be anything from seahorses and Renaco's pipefish to flamboyant cuttlefish to blue ring octopus to wasp fish to hundreds of species of nudibranchs. You will literally be looking at all these tiny little critters nonstop your whole dive. They call it muck diving because there's not pretty colorful coral reefs with 3D structure that you're diving in and over. You know, you're on a flat surface, the sand, but the diving is just really, really cool. Once you get into the critters, you start going into the ID books, and it's fascinating.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
said, yeah, there's stuff like mating mandarin fish and stuff too at some of the reefs. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's stuff you just don't see on the reef as much. So that's what's so cool about it, is it's a very unique type of diving.
yeah.
And so anything, I know that Atlantis does organize a few land activities to do outside of that. Can you just mention a little bit about what you can do outside of diving?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously on the Azores, on the Liveaboard, that's more limited, but at both resorts, we offer a number of different land-based tours. So we offer snorkeling tours, we offer different hikes and waterfall tours, we offer village tours, so you can go see some local culture or local markets. You know, one caveat on local markets, and take this for a lot of places in the world, is know what you're getting into. A lot of stuff is edible in other places we might not think of as edible. So if you're really looking for the cultural experience there, you know, these things are second to none and really, really great to mix in with your dive trip. In Porto Galera, at the top of the hills behind the city, there's a nice golf course on a mountaintop. So you can go there, have a lunch, and just admire the view. So we've got a number of different activities there, you know, for whatever you want to do. Fun fact, Dumaguete actually has some of the best mountain biking in the Philippines too. Some great lakes and mountains to hike and really cool stuff. So we do a lot of those land tours.
Great, perfect. And then of course we have to ask the question, any idea when the Philippines might be open?
Yeah, so that's of course the question on everyone's mind, and I love talking about it every day. But you know, Philippines is like so many other places right now. There's just no concrete information. We are assuming that the Philippines will be open, you know, in October. So we have groups coming to the resort in November, and we are planning to be up and running, doing our usual, you know, the whole Atlantis experience with our you know, friendly staff and all that by November. You know, and we're looking at little indicators. You know, Philippine Airlines is consolidating flights. So we take that as a sign that they're planning to be running these flights, which is why they're creating efficiencies with their flight plans. So those are the things we're looking at. So we're expecting November, and that's what we're gauging on right now. But again, nothing concrete, just like most places.
Yeah, well, I understand.
Yeah.
Hopeful.
I wish I had a concrete answer.
Right? Yeah. And then one last question, Brent, is somebody was just asking, can you give us a ballpark figure of the liveaboard prices, or is it too hard because of the destination and the length of stay? They just were curious.
Yeah, so the liveaboard, it depends again on the length, but you would look at about $3,500 for $3,500 to $3,600 for a 7-night itinerary. To Bataha would be more, that's separate. But if you're looking at shipwrecks of Coron and Apple Reef, it would be that. Or if you're looking at the Visayas or Cebu Malapascua for 7 nights, it would be that price. If you're doing 10 nights Malapascua, it would be a little more for obvious reasons, more nights and more fuel to go all the way to Malapascua.
Perfect, perfect. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I think that gives us tons of information. If anybody needs anything else, please feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to get you some additional info. As a reminder, we do have our cruise. Coral Reef Ecology Workshop is September 4th to the 11th of 2021, and that will be in Dumaguete. And then we do have an add-on to do Porto Galera, so you get a chance to see both properties, and that will be the 11th to the 16th. So we're really looking forward to doing that next year, and there is space available, so please join us for that. We're going to do the prize drawing tonight, which is, let me just make sure I got this right, Brent. 7 nights at either resort for one person, includes accommodations, diving, meals, and then the additional thing will just be your transfers and your beverages. Is there anything else, Brent, that I had missed on that for the prize?
Yep, no, that's exactly it. And I'll just elaborate since I have the chance. But the way we do the diving is up to 5 dives per day. And the reason for that is you don't have to worry about, hey, I want to do a night dive. Let me get my $60 and 3 buddies. You go there, dive center. They say, oh, you need 4 buddies and $80. And you dive when you want. If you want to skip a dive, go to the spa, whatever. You got 5 dives a day, and it works out really well. It's a great system. So all the food, the diving, and the room is all included in that price or that prize. Yep.
Yep, and it is. I mean, the dive sites are only 5 minutes away, and they're super easy to do as many or as few dives as you want to do, or enjoy the spa. So it's valet diving. They just do a spectacular job. So I want to just thank Brent for his presentation. I thought it was super informative, and I've even been there and I still learn things. So I really want to appreciate and thank you for doing that. And I know we all look forward to getting down there sometime soon. And so we'll hopefully cruise, we'll get some people signed up and get you down there. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he's going to spin the wheel for the big winner.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Just to add to Lisa's comments, one of the nice things, in my opinion, about Atlantis resorts is you get kind of 2 distinctly different destinations. You can have 2 distinctly different destinations in one trip, and it's pretty easy to do the transfer between the 2 resorts. So you can do a combination trip where you do 5 nights at one, 6 nights at another, any kind of combination really that you want to do. Just to elaborate on the cruise trip, Coral Reef Ecology Workshop Series, I've been a part of that myself a couple times, and we have 2 marine biologists that come on that trip with us. They dive with you every day. They're on the boats answering questions about what you're seeing. And then they're doing presentations every day on different topics of marine environment, critters, coral, et cetera, et cetera. Very educational trips, and a great way if you want to learn more about the environment that you're diving in. It's a great opportunity to participate in that.